good morning, and welcome to Doppler's Gear Garage. In case we haven't met, my name is Doug. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And Chris Alexander, you made it. Hello. Braden, hello to you, my friend. All right. Hey, thanks, Chris. So this is a combination. Hang on, let me just push in the gray there just a little bit. There we go. Hide that gray. This is a combination of this lovely little amp that if I turn down this right here, hang on a second, you'll hear there's a little tiny bit of it. Of that going on in the room. Then this adds some volume that's coming back through my studio monitors and adds a few little bits and pieces of, hang on, let me close a few things over here, adds a little bit of all of this. I'm going to turn both the delay and the reverb off. So now I'm going to add in a little bit of the verb, or a bit of the verb. And then we've got the delay. Here's just the delay. And now the delay and the verb. And in the back there, that is the California Tweed. That is the slightly discontinued 20-watt model. But they have a louder, bigger version that is still available. And on top of that, you see my Cab Clone IR Plus. And that has been another kind of new addition around here that's a big deal to me. So for those of us that have a space, whether it's a small space like an apartment or maybe late night with neighbors, and you don't want to run your amp at full volume, in addition to having all the beautiful kind of Cab Clone IR stuff in there, it's also got an attenuator. So I've stepped the volume back on. Hang on, I can demonstrate this. I'm going to mute me. So we got this. There we go. Real quiet with literally a volume control where I can bring that down on the quietest setting. That's where I was. And that step down. Oh, I'm peaking. Sorry about that. And I can just go, all right. Still a little peaking. Still a little peaky. And this is where I was. So it's nice to have just a little bit of the amp in the room, but then when I add all this back in, there we go. go. That's what I meant to do. All right. Hey. Thank you for the kind words. David, welcome. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm out of order. Hang on. Let me get my act together. Bill, bust out the Kramer V. The Kramer V, my apologies, but it's kind of around the corner, and there's a bunch of stuff. So I apologize, no Kramer V today, but we got a little Epiphone Les Paul. That wasn't what I wanted to do. There we go. Good morning to you. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry to disappoint. Griffin, good morning. How was your fourth? Nice to shoot a couple messages back and forth between you and wishing me a happy 4th. Thanks so much, and hope you and Kiara had an awesome time. Okay. Bent Tom, I was thinking about you yesterday, thinking I haven't seen my buddy Tom for a minute. Great to see you, my friend. Trust you're doing well. Hope things are kind of cool in the background there. Always a pleasure, my friend. Melissa, it's your last show. The gear is going to be all over the house. Technically, it already is. Damn, that sounds really nice. I should say that feels really nice. I don't know how it sounds, but gosh darn it. So that is basically Boogie's take on a tweed. It's an interesting thing that happened. First of all, hang on a second. David, thank you so much, my friend. I have been on an Instagram-inspired journey. For those of us that kind of watch, excuse me, all these incredible guitar players on Instagram, you just kind of go, man, and there's kind of this thing, slide. So I'm in the midst of the kind of the tail end of a studio clean. It actually doesn't look like a bomb went off in here. But my two favorite slides have not yet reappeared in the midst of the clean here. But there's a bunch of guys that kind of do. Have kind of a slidey kind of thing inside there. Inside, they're playing in kind of a twain. And so in the midst of, I was supposed to do the demo for this guitar yesterday actually. And And as I continued to kind of work on different sounds, including kind of the pair of Badlander 50s behind me that just were about 11 o'clock, drop D, just kind of doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Then this was one of the other sounds that I kind of came up with tonally, and it was like, you know what? Really sensitive. It's not necessarily, it's not your shred sort of a tone, but because it's got a little bit of hair to it, makes you work for your take-home pay. In any case, I hope everybody here had an awesome 4th. I was spending the day playing guitar, and I pretty much had an awesome time, except for when I had to stop. Steve, good morning, my dear friend. You, my dear, not too old friend. Great to see you. It's really, so the interesting thing about tweeds is that they can be farty in the bottom end. And of all the words, I think last week we talked about flaccid. Tone that's flaccid is generally, in fact, I think everybody can agree. The F word, never good. There's nothing good about it. But flaccid tone, definitely not good. So the thing about tweeds that is a let's see. Oh, come on. I can't play it today. One of the greatest guitar tones ever that I'm pretty sure is a Telecaster and 2 tweeds, but that just so groovy, but the trick is to make it beefy. Got some meat, but it's not flubby in the bottom end, flaccid. The crazy thing about this guitar, probably the best sounding guitar I've played through that amp. Just kind of like everything I do. Kind of my favorite little tweak here is the volume control. Are kind of both all the way up. You can hear that shift. No. You know, it just takes a little bit of the little bit of the meat out, but I can't say a full sentence today. It takes a little bit of the meat out, but it makes it a little bit more tele. It's really touch sensitive. And this, by the way, oh, I have pulled it out. All right, I changed the strings yesterday, and it's still settling just a little bit. Let's give it a respectful tuning. First of all, everybody, in case we haven't met, well, I guess that's not everybody, but good morning, everybody, for tuning in. And if you're on the East Coast, I should say good afternoon. And if you're in Europe, good evening. Not good night, but good evening. In any case, my name's Doug. This is Doppler'S Gear Garage, and we are celebrating the love of the guitar. If you have any questions, let me know and drop them in the chat. All right, let's see. Yeah, we're on the other side of Oakland, which is kind of has a pretty big gang presence, and I heard more than fireworks last night. Albert, there you go. Good morning, my man. Albert and I have a mutual affection, for the love of boogie. Look at that Tector. The funny thing is as I was kind of pulling the signal chain together last night, I was like, or yesterday mid-afternoon, I was like, there's got to be a compressor on. I just know it. And I looked in the signal chain. I'm nope. A great tube amp has a certain amount of natural compression in the circuit. It's the sort of thing that something like that. There we go. All right. So, good morning, my friend. Recovering from my first tour, yes. Played a festival in the Headlight Canada in Jasper. I'm hooked. Way to go. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Fantastic, my friend. What was your favorite thing that happened? Let me know. Absolute favorite thing that happened. All right, let's see here. JKM, John Mello. I don't know. I think you're no, I'm what C sharp. I'm ending up at A. Good morning, my dear friend. Roger Osborne, make them Epiphone sound great. You know, I gotta say, I have, you know, it's a funny thing. I don't know about you guys, but do you ever talk to yourself? I mean, like, you know, like have like some sort of ongoing dialogue, rather than like, oh, snap, I did that or whatever. But like, I do, and I'm not on any sort of medication, and I'm not smoking the California national plant. But the thing is that I'm frequently having tone dialogue with myself. How does that sound? Is that too bright? Is that too bassy? Is it too flaccid? Is it too, whatever. But the interesting thing is the conversation I had with myself about this guitar. I absolutely hate the way that shows, but I think I just got a crafty idea. Is that I bet I could put a piece of black tape on that, or necessity's the mother of invention. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I see an idea coming to fruition right now. Still has a little bit of shine to it. And by the way, I absolutely hate the way Sharpies smell, but let's see how that does right there. So let's see how that goes. And I know I'm going to end up with Sharpie all over my finger now. Let's take a look at that. It's better. Black tape will do a better job, but it's not quite as obnoxious. All right. So the deal is, the conversation I had was like, I think and sometimes we've talked about, have peaks and valleys in our playing, But I'm kind of in a period of guitar discovery, and I'm trying to figure out a bunch of things about my playing and about myself as a player, and kind of what really moves me and areas that I'm growing in. And the conversation I had, it was like, I think I've had more fun playing this guitar than any other instrument that's in the room. Get back on there. As noted by the fact that I've managed to rotate this switch here. So, which is very interesting to say, because it's a $690 guitar. The video that I intend to do with it was just going to be a pretty simple, here's a tone, or pickup selector in the bridge position, it's got, for a Les Paul, that's a nice clean tone on the bridge position. Back off on that control there. It's just a really fantastic instrument. Every time I pick it up, I have to put it down because I got someplace to go or something to do, which pretty much means I just sit here and play this thing. It's probably the most addictive guitar currently in the room, which is really interesting because it's currently by far the least expensive guitar in the room. All right, I'm reading the comments. I know you put, Sonny, what's happening? Good morning, my dear, again, not too old friend. My dog was under a blanket. The funny thing is that our dogs, they're so used to kind of strange noises and drums going bang, bang, bang. The fireworks didn't trip, nor did the gunfire. I was out helping my parents for a while. So how is that going, my friend, if you don't mind my asking? And by the way, I've been having a dialogue with kind of a new friend in Doppler world, and they're going through a thing with the aging parent thing. All my blood and step parents, actually my dad's ex-wife is still alive, but they're kind of all gone. So having walked through all the cancer and Alzheimer's and falling and all the crap that happens as you kind of, you do this reversal of role model. You all of a sudden become the parent, and the parent becomes the child, and then you kind of watch people Yeah, you get the point. So I feel you, man. Nice to see you. Always a pleasure, but you knew that. Michael, good morning. Wow. I'll say this. First of all, that is, of all the things that you could do to hit the center of the bullseye of what I'm attempting to do with my guitar playing, is every week be a little bit better than I was the week before. So that right there, of all the things that that resonate with all the time and the hours that I spend playing, thank you. Hang on. Thank you. Really appreciate it. A lot. And, you know, my favorite thing about the guitar, and I want to say this to anybody out there that's a guitar player, regardless of where you are in your journey, valley, peak mountain experience, is my favorite thing about the instrument is there's always more. And I absolutely love that sense of discovery. And, you know, I will say, one, it's an outgrowth of practice. This, by the way, you're seeing my practice tools right here, not Melissa. She actually tolerates that, but the idea is right here. Come on. Open sesame. 80 BPM. And we got my handy dandy little timer. And I'm now in 15-minute mode. There we go. And that is my world. And it allows me to just kind of start off the day. I generally have a tendency to just run some chords as of late. I'm finding, you know what? I'm not spending enough time just getting chords really, really super clean, but also working on getting chords, because I'll probably flop it, be able to play it without actually looking at, sorry, I put a rest in there where there's no rest, being able to do it without looking at the neck, so you really get a chance to, so is major. Major, let's see if I can do it without Dorian. Oh boy, what have I set myself into? Major, Dorian. So, major, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian. No, Mixolydian. Mixolydian. Mixolydian, holy cow. Minor, Locrian. Oh, come on. Locrian. There we go. Oh, that's major then. Locrian. Major. So let me explain what I'm doing. If you took the major scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, and you took that on this string instead of playing here, and played it here, and you took that third note, which is a G, A, B, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, and played the G and B, A and C, B and D, C and G, G and B, A and C, B and D, C and E, D and F sharp, E and G, F sharp and A, and I don't know why I'm moving my head like an imbecile, G and B, and then we add this little D on top of there, as in, that's the 5. And it gives us G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, F sharp, C, E, G, D, F sharp, A, E, G, B, F sharp, A, C, G, B, D, G, B, D, F sharp, A, C, E, G, B, D, F sharp, A, C, E, G, B, D, F sharp, A, C, E, G, B, D. And that gives us collectively these triads. So what I was doing was just going the 1, 2, and 3 chord, 2, 3, and 4 chord, 3, 4, and 5, 4, 5, and 6, 5, 6, and 7, 6, 7, and 1, and 7, 1, and 2. Oh, no, not like that. There we go. And it just kind of gets the brain used to doing all of that stuff. And it's just, the thing about this, let's pick a mode. Sure, minor. So I'm playing the 6th chord. I'm going with 6 chord, 5 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord. And I snuck in a minor 7 flat 5 because it's a beautiful chord for just a little bit of extra. Traditionally, you wouldn't go, you're like, nah, I don't think so. But as just a little bit of... kind of snuck into harmonic minor there for a second. The chords are just so beautiful. So at the very top of the video, I want to give a little bit of... So that's the chords from a song called Slow Gin by Joe Bonamassa, of course, because you've heard it like probably thousands of times. And the thing that's really cool about it, and I'm kind of going to use this as a segue point, and I apologize, I'm going to temporarily hit the brakes on the salutations, and well, no, I won't. Brian, good morning, my dear friend. Great to see you. Love that photo. Look at that. So basically what's happening is that is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chord. Except we're playing it, let's do it, it's relative to F major, even though we're in the key of D minor. The relative major is F major, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's a 6 chord, our 1 chord. But what he does here that's very interesting, instead of playing the 2 minor, he plays a 2 major. Then he's going 4 chord, 5 chord, 6 chord, 1 chord, 2 major, 4, 5, 6. And when it goes to that chord, it switches from D minor. That's basically D minor, D minor, D Dorian, back to D minor, sorry. But what's neat about it, it's so pretty. What's interesting also, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 major chords, which does not happen diatonically in the major scale. And it's just a really, really, I just remember the first time I heard it, I was like, oh man, I love just the vibe of it. And chords are such a special vehicle to be able to sit and vibe on. That's kind of one of the things why I wanted to go with this tone today. By the way, those chord tones, of course, are the best notes to resolve to. Chords, love them. Tony Lucchese, morning, all speaking of dogs, played a benefit for a day rescue last week. Oh, that's awesome. 3-hour show. The river in Cincinnati had a blast. Happy 4th of July. And happy 5th of July as well. Gosh darn it, that's awesome. I had a feeling you meant dog rescue because Doug Rescue, I've already been rescued. And for better or worse, I'm calling this home. My neighbors will shoot fireworks all weekend. Mark Turvey, Maestro. The other thing I've been working on is like, how do I get both hands on the neck at the same time? And I go at the end. That little kind of muty thing is like, it's for years been like crash and burn. Steve, love you, bro. You know, the funny thing is, my friend, I'm just going to speak honestly here. What was it I was watching? It was some show where they were talking about, like, you know, the migration pattern of shirts, right? So we have shirts that are everyday shirts, and then we have shirts that migrate their way to weekend shirts, and then they become yard shirts, and then they become rags, right? The wife inherits them and kind of uses them to clean stuff, because the cooking and the cleaning, I leave that to the experts. But the funny thing is, I just happened to kind of like, I figured I was going to hop in the shower this morning, and I just spent too much time playing this morning, which is, there's worse things in the world. So I technically am in all my exercise duds because I'm going to sneak in a little walk around the local reservoir, which is how I manage to outwork all the calories that I love to ingest. But the thing is I just happened to grab the Fender shirt, and I realized the irony is like, I got a room full of boogies. That's not true. There's a Fender Telly right there. But, you know, here we're doing this. So I appreciate the sense of nuance there, my friend. Was wearing a Gibson shirt, playing a Fender a few days ago. I love that. And you, my friend. Can't wait to hear you play again. Do me a favor. Send me a link of some of y'all's playing that Skinnerd stuff. Love that. All right. Steve, again, hello. Might not have been the Ozzy you were looking for, but I hope that at least satiated the Osborne. Hey, I'm going to let you guys in on something that I want to encourage you to work on. I've spent a lot of time... working on single note stuff, but kind of this week I was like, well, why are you not playing more notes at the same time? And I don't mean chords, I mean... I want to encourage you to work more on Diads / double stop. was just kind of not very well, but oh, not minor third. Brain on. All right, we're going to talk about intervals because obviously I forgot everything that I know. If you look at a minor triad, in this case an F sharp minor triad, and I include the octave, that's going to be an F sharp, A, C sharp, and another F sharp. Really kind of like an F sharp minor bar chord. But I'm just hitting the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings. But if you take those notes, that's a minor 3rd shape, that's a major 3rd shape, and that's a perfect 4th shape. So if you can kind of go, okay, that's F sharp, A, and C sharp. So at F sharp, I'm going to play the minor 3rd. At A, I'm going to play a major 3rd. At C sharp, I'm going to play the 4th. And at F sharp, I'm going to play the minor 3rd. I won't make the mistake I did a minute ago where I kind of like, where am I? Holy cow. It's literally kind of applying. Well, if I start at the right place. Hold on. So it goes minor, major, perfect 4th, minor, F sharp minor, A major, C sharp, as I can find a half step below D, which last time I checked was still C sharp. That's a perfect 4th, and then a minor 3rd. Obviously, I spent a lot more time at G. Wait, so that's perfect 4th. Yeah, that's going to be the F sharp minor. Sorry, I played it at the wrong spot. So we basically, we can also play it like this. F sharp. There we go. So I basically walked up F sharp minor as a minor 3rd, A major as a major 3rd, C sharp and F sharp is a perfect 4th. Then we're going to kind of start that same cycle. That's F sharp right there. Minor 3rd, we're going to go up to A and play a major 3rd. We're going to go up to C sharp and play a perfect 4th. We're going to finish up with this minor 3rd that was an octave of... Again, let's wear that thing out. The other thing about hitting with the first finger down at the bottom of the neck, kind of walk your finger up and mute it that way. Or lift it up and then bring the right hand down on the strings. Because the challenge is, once you get from here and you lift up, you've still got that, which is where that mute on the right hand. And then, I moved over from the right hand to the left hand, right hand. Both hands lift up. Right hand mutes, left hand moves across the string, so on and so forth. Cool. That was fun. Again, not necessarily the Aussie you were expecting. Brett, what's going on, my man? Good morning. Dude, so that sound. One of the greatest rock riffs ever. Just ever. Joe Walsh, if you, just for the sake of conversation, the Rocky Mountain Way. And then there's, Life's Been Good, and of course all his phenomenal work with the Eagles, like certifiable rock star. And per some of his crazy shenanigans, I'm sure there was a period of time people thought he was just plain certifiable. But just one of the most iconic guitar players. You hear Joe Walsh and go, that's him. Just love that guy. Okay. Couldn't agree more. West Philadelphia. Holy cow. I've been to Philly. All right. to know. Oh my word. Holy cow. Yes and amen. Just unbelievable. Sonia, good morning. You know, say hello to my little friend. So I am not using the pedal that I was using last week, but you will be proud to know that, see that cable right there? This, by the way, is Sonia's amazing fulcrum dual axis, as in forward and back. Let me just make sure my axis is all axed, and then sideways as well. So it's a dual expression pedal, hence the dual jacks. So I have this hooked up, although I'm not running through it today, through my Keeley, I want to say Atmosphere, but it's the Halo. And so Sonia probably, you know, kind of gets mildly annoyed every time I talk about this. But basically, what I love about this is, to me, this is the expression mouse. I just look at this, I'm like, oh, this just needs to live where it lives now. So anytime I'm going to be hooking up something that has an expression, I want to be able to control it from here instead of having to wander over there or have some other type of thing. Literally, I'm just like, oh, a little more delay? Great. A little bit less delay. Unfortunately, I have not found a way to use it to control plugins, which really kind of bums me out, at least kind of native kind of inline plugins inside my DAW. But you could control some automation, and there's got to be some way to use that. To be continued. But the point being is having that tactile control where you can just bring in the amount of delay. I just love this thing. Thank you, Sonia. You rock. I hope you had an awesome 4th as well. In any case, Tom Cutts, good morning. The thing is, once I kind of get the chord thing done, there's something really cool there. I don't know. I can't do that. That's, again, taking that kind of whole minor third. That's all right. Got to be at B. Minor third, major third, perfect 4th, minor third, major third, perfect 4th. Basically, it makes playing arpeggio shapes really easy. I'm playing it, in this case, a B minor arpeggio, minor third, major third off the flat 3, perfect 4th off the 5, back to the minor third off the 1 to the flat 3. Gosh darn it. Well, in any case, great to see you, Tom. Okay. A second, I got to jump down here. So would be right at home here in New Orleans. You actually worry when you don't hear gunfire. All right, Chris, great to see you. I'll catch up with you a little later, my friend. Anil, all right. That's about as far as I dare go today. That's a great riff, isn't it? Holy cow! But that's about as gunnified as I get. I just love Slash. Just what a flippin' amazing guitar player. And that riff, riffs, as much as I love chords, a great riff is something really. Yes. And thank you, by the way. My guitar says, really appreciate it. Oh, you know what? Holy cow. Now, the funny thing is my espresso drink ended up upstairs by accident, but it is time to do the obvious thing. We got to raise them up. So do me a favor. Let me know where it is. I do have a little leftover energy drink, which I think has lost its fizz, but I'm thirsty enough. I'm gonna have a little swig. So let me know where it is that you're coming from and what it is that you're drinking. Top of the morning to you. Okie dokie. Tom Cuts. Celebratory gunshots in Oakland are not sole activity of hoodlums. No, they're so. There you go. That is, yes. So short version is that there seems to be, and it's not just. How do I say this? You might have seen a thing on the news. I have a friend, Brad. He sometimes stops in on the live stream. And he was going to kind of drive and drop off his car by the Oakland airport. It's like, Brad, let me give you a ride. Let me give you a ride back and forth. So you might have seen a thing on the news a year and a half ago where this convenience store was basically just raided and they just destroyed everything. They took everything. But in terms of, the shooting off, so when I think of that particular dimension of what happens as gang-related activity, it's a very present part of what happens in the San Francisco Bay Area. That said, there are a bunch of, pardon the expression, redneck hoodlums that think it's a wonderful idea to point their gun in the air right around the stroke of midnight, not knowing that those bullets go up and they come back down. And honestly, last night, even though it was the 4th of July, I was just like, I'm hearing a lot of gunfire, and it's actually on this side of the tunnel. So that is to say, you do not need to be a hoodlum. You do not need to be a redneck. There are a lot of people who have guns in California. And without going political, hey, we don't touch that. I start hearing that stuff, and I'm like, kind of looking up at the roof, kind of wondering, like, at what point is one going to drop in the yard? Just saying. So there's just all sorts of not super smart stuff going on. You add a little alcohol to that mix, holy cow. Best moment for me on tour was playing The Mystic on Canada Day. Awesome. Probably the best I've ever played. Same with Open Road, which is a new song we're releasing in late August. Congratulations. Love to hear those. That sounds great. Awesome. Way to go. Love that. Congratulations. When the gas starts to rise, I start talking to myself. There you go. Do I really need a tweed? Do I really need a second one so I can play in stereo? the double stop. And treble stops. The other thing is that, and again, I'm really just at kind of literally, it was kind of like about Tuesday. I'm like, I need to play more notes together. I can. Sort of. But the thing is that it makes you think about the neck differently. The other thing I did the other day, and I want to suggest this to you, I broke the high E string. And so sometimes just you're like, I'm going to keep playing. I don't know. I've got extra strings, but I was like, well, what happens if I just don't play the high E string when I put it back on, right? And but what starts to happen is you play in different registers than you normally would, because you than you would to finish your phrases, because I discovered, like, gosh darn, I spent a lot of time on the high E string working with phrases. So just a thought there. All right. So first of all, good morning, my friend. So I answered this question before, but I am more than happy to answer that for you. So first of all, I'm on a tone quest, as we all are, right? So the thing is, I think we're all looking for that thing that inspires us, whatever. And I have this concept that I kind of work with my students that I call parallel verticals. Where there are things that seemingly aren't related, so they're their own verticals, but yet because they kind of sit side by side, they actually are related. So one of the things that I want to be better at is kind of... Oh, come on. Oh, come on. Playing fast on a tone that's kind of got just enough hair on one string is a little bit easier, but you start crossing different strings. There we go. And this tone is just challenging enough, especially if I turn off all the... I'm going to step out on a limb because, gosh darn it, I'm just going to do it. And it may not sound great. And you know what? I'm kind of okay with that. I'm going to walk back and kind of build things. But that is, say, Brett, I'm going to show you how loud I am actually in the room with just the amp. But I also have the Mesa Boogie Cab Clone IR Plus, which is stepping back the volume about 4 clicks, which is a number of dB. Well, that is to say, this is going to peak things out. So this is where it is at the lowest. That's where we are now. And this will peak things out. And the idea is that when using an IR, the ability to actually load an actual speaker on the circuit makes the amp behave more like an amp, wait for it, with a speaker loading the circuit. Such that when you're getting the sound of the IR, the amp is responding to the speaker, and you're kind of taking a tap. Yes, the amp is responding to the speaker, but you're taking a tap off that equation, and you're bringing that into your DAW with an IR kind of in line to that. Now this is the volume, and I'm probably a little hot, but I have leveling that's on this microphone right here. Oh, you can see the mic. That's a kind of a Doug no-no. I don't like the mic. I have a slightly... No, well, my mic is dangling today. All right, let's get it all the way in the frame. Let's just like do it. That would annoy me to no end. As a matter of fact, it is. I'm going to have to adjust the stand. Now I've done it to myself. So, all right. So it is. And by the way, that's a great way to bang your headstock. I've got to make an adjustment on this mic stand. All right. Are you going to let me do it from here? There we go. And bring you down just a little bit. Edge of frame is there. There we go. A little bit of margin of error. There we go. All right. All right. So the deal is, that's sort of a tone. That's going to make you earn your take-home pay, because there's a little extra meat on each pick stroke, which is part of what... But, so I'm going to spend some time working with this tone, just really working on my technique. But boy, wow. That's so strange to play that without... That's how much pick noise is inside there. So there it is without any of the fancy stuff. And let's add a little bit of reverb there. So that is, say, Brett, there's just the raw amp. Again, alone in the room. With studio monitors, again, coming amp. In line with the amp, I've got Cab Clone IR Plus. That's stepping down the volume of the amplifier, which in turn reduces the amount of input going into the DAW there. So that's kind of the one feature I'm like, oh, I wish it didn't do that. But because it's reducing, it's attenuating, it's just, it does it everywhere. Fine. The short version is that for those of us that are environments or, what's happening, why I bought that and a second one of those, is that behind me you'll see two Mesa Boogie. Those are the Badlander 50 112 combo with Celestian creambacks. What I like to do is I'm working, because I'm stepping into album production mode seriously, and kind of that's why the studio has kind of been revamped. But in the midst of also getting ready to do this demo and deciding I'm going to take a little bit more time with it, is that one of the things I like to do is, as I'm working on production, is if I'm going to double track a part, is actually have two amps, and it's a bit of a luxury, I realize that, but having two amps so I can hear how the part, when it's double tracked, or if I choose not to, because I set the amp slightly differently, how it responds And then I am not kind of like, oh, let me lay the one part, let me lay the other one, let me change the part a little bit. All right, let me change the other one. And like an hour goes by and you're like, oh, that tone's not working. It's supposed to like, oh, all right, that tone works. That's great. Do I need to change the part? Maybe, but it allows you to make a bunch of decisions in this much time instead of that much time. And I do not have that much time. I got this much to do in this much time. So the point being is those decisions are a big deal. So at the same time, I only have one of the California tweeds. So I also spend some time just kind of getting to know the amp with the Les Paul. And I can tell you, a tweed is not traditionally an amp that I would plug a Les Paul into. I would traditionally kind of start with a Tele. First of all, as you can kind of hear there, when they're L naked, there ain't much hiding room. They're pretty fast in terms of. And you got to kind of get your hand used to, if you will, the envelope of the amplifier. Getting back to this parallel verticals, each one of these amps has its own little vibe. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to be able to kind of jump between all those different vibes and live with them. All right. Getting back to the tone thing, here is the amp back coming through this microphone. That's one of the other things I wanted to say. For those of us that live where we're kind of bringing stuff into the box, my strongest suggestion, that's not how I did this, but as I was kind of having this conversation with myself this morning as I was making my espresso, which I left upstairs, was that get your tone dialed-ish, but once you start going into the box, if you need to notate where things, are set with your camera, so on and so forth. But then a great place to live once you know you're ending up in the box is just kind of, if you're going to have a little bit of room volume, that's great. But dial your tones in through your studio monitors. It's a lesson that I kind of have learned a couple of different ways. But once you are committing to go through an IR, don't start dialing stuff for the cabinet at that point. Really start dialing it for what's happening inside the mix, what's happening in your monitors, maybe changing up the IR a little bit, whatever you need to do. But that would be my strongest suggestion. It will help preserve your sanity. All right, here's the tone. Verb. Adding some delay. Something like that. Love that sound. All right. Hope that answers your question, Brett. I love that. Thank you. Charlie, happy fit to you. That looks like a middle finger, but I don't think that is necessarily intended to be a kind of a mixed message. So in any case, happy fit to you as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. I don't recall having seen you here before, so welcome, 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 welcome. Don't forget to bring your questions. Michael, talk metronome to me, baby. Oh, come on. You guys have no idea. Oh gosh, am I gonna go there? What I do in the wee hours of the morning. I'll tell you. So I'm in the midst. I'm gonna cross a line here. So I am working on a pentatonic course, but kind of the unspoken. Well, I haven't spoken it, but basically I don't talk about the pentatonic course here because I'm kind of in development. I'm just very careful about what I do. But I will say one of the things I would suggest doing if you were to take. I'm not going to reveal all of this, but if you were to take, well, let's say B. B minor pentatonic. You can look at it as a shape. You can look at it as a interval. Minor third, major second, minor third, major second, minor third, major second, minor third. And that's really helpful as you're going to. Especially I don't play a second instead of a minor third. Because if you can kind of get your brain and your fingers to kind of connect, instead of playing a major second. There's I can hear that I'm at the one. So the next interval, it's going to be a minor third. Major second, minor third, major second. You can begin it. I can't hit that. Well, I could, but I want to hit that note. Let's try that again. So that's kind of going, right, kind of backpedaling through there. But the point being is that the intervals are a great way to not get stuck in pattern number one because you're thinking and using the neck in a completely different way. And if you notice, I'm actually spending almost all the entire time I was talking about that. Minor third. Okay. There you go. And I forgot that I was in pattern number one, but that's the great thing about not looking at the neck is like, I played. No, it's like, no. Like, oh, okay, got it. I'm in pattern number one, so I can just jump into the shape there if I want to, but. The other thing is what we don't have a tendency to do is play a lot of, although we might do Diads, but. Kind of working with Diads and kind of and intervals. You get the point. All right. Nick, good morning, my friend. How you doing? Get the brew going. I didn't finish that last little bit of this thing. So you can also think of it as scale degree numbers: 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. And you can think of that if the major scale goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. The minor pentatonic leaves out the 2 and the 6 and takes the 3rd and the 7th degrees. That is, say, if we just went, instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, we went 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, 1, and take the 3 and the 7 and turn it into a flat 3 and a flat 7. We end up with 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. And the great thing about that is, if you know that's a B minor chord, well, guess what? Jimmy Page, in his infinite wisdom, even though he did the bend from the 4, he's hitting the notes of the chord. So any one of those 1, flat 3, 5, 1, flat 3, 5, 1, flat 3, 5, 1s are great to resolve to. And gosh darn it, would probably be convenient at that point to go, all right, B, D, E, F sharp, A, B, B, A, F sharp, E, D, B. So we can identify that B, D, F sharp, B, D, F sharp, B, D, F sharp, B. Sorry, that's an E, D, F sharp, B. And then be able to go, all right, well, where's a B, D, and an F sharp? B, D, F sharp, 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 B, D, F sharp. All the different ways you could play B, D, F sharp. And the great thing about that is it allows you to use different registers of the instrument, which is the ultimate money about knowing what the flip you're doing with the pentatonic. Micro rant coming. Let me pull up my chair. Origins. Most of us, when we started playing guitar, went to a little music store, a little Dougie. My mom drove me down to the store. All right, there you go. See you in 31 minutes. And the guy in the back of the store, lovely guy, but I think he spent a bunch of time, if you know what I mean, snorkeling. He was a snorkeler. But the point being is that he'd be like, you know, all right, here you go, dude. All right, I'll see you next time. And it was really a little like that. But I got the pentatonic, like most of us get, and it's kind of like, you know, a shape, maybe a little red circle, and like, there it is. It's the minor pentatonic. No other information other than you find the root of the chord progression on the low E string, and you start there. See you next week. Then eventually your journey kind of begins to, you know, for many people, eventually we end up understanding the modes, and that you take the major scale. And if you started off of each of its degrees, that is, say if I take G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, F sharp, G, and I started off its second degree, that is the Dorian mode. And Phrygian, Lydian, mixed Lydian minor, Locrian, so on and so forth. And if you take the first, third, and fifth tones of each of those, major, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, mixed Lydian minor, Locrian, and major, you end up with major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished major. So that is the first, third, and fifth tones of each one of those modes, and that's where chord theory comes from. Oh, got it. All right. So in other words, if I take a chord that's based off the second degree of the major scale, I guess that's a, wait for it, a 2 chord. Oh, got it. So like 2, 5, 1 is really taking a chord based off the Dorian mode, the mixed Lydian mode, and the major mode, even though one of those is going to be the tonal center, or maybe not even. But the point being is somewhere in that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, one of those is the tonal center, but I still prefer to think of the 2 chord as a 2 chord. And wait for it, the 5 chord is a 5 chord, and the 1 chord as a 1 chord. That way you can kind of make some sense of it. Now, earlier, I talked about 2 major, where normally the 2 chord is a minor chord. So that is borrowing a page. I have the unique pleasure that the keyboardist I play with is a guy by the name of Peter Keys, who I've known for a very long time, and I was in a band with his sister, Stephanie Keys. Happy 4th of July in heaven, and 5th of July, Stephanie. She's no longer with us, but she's still with us. So Peter plays keys in Lynyrd Skynyrd, and I have the unique privilege of recording both the vocal album and the instrumental albums that I'm working on, and he's just a dear friend. And so when we're talking about kind of internal modulations like that, that would normally be the 6, 1, 2, and he just has 2 major. I was like, I really like that. It just works. So everybody knows when you say 2 major, it means instead of minor, we play major there. It's like, all right, well, that gets the job done. So the point being is that being able to kind of understand what's happening there theoretically is one of the ways. I didn't stretch these enough when I put them on here, but I wasn't anticipating that I was just going to be live streaming this morning and not having stretched them enough for said live stream. My apologies. The point being is that once you kind of know all that about theory, we never go back to the minor pentatonic for the most part. So we have all this world of pentatonic, and that's basically 1 1 1 flat 7 5 flat 7 1 flat 7 1 flat 7 5 1 flat 7 5 1 1 flat 3 1 flat 3 1. So the point being is, that's also a G G G F D F G F D G F D G G B flat. But we don't think about it like that. We think about the shape. There's nothing wrong with that. But the idea is, if you wanted to find that basically we're kind of playing around. That little box hit is basically going 5 flat 7 1 flat 3. So if you can find that note right there, which by the way is a D. Sorry, I'm in G. Starting off the D right. That gets again to the register. So I can play that same. Not if I don't play minor third. But listen how different. It's the same octave. But that's where knowing the note names allows you to kind of go, hey, I'm unlocked from playing box 1. Hang on a second. I saw somebody pop in there. Just 1 second. Kirsten, hello. How are you? Happy 4th. Great to see you. Hello, welcome. I hope I didn't miss you in the midst of talking pentatonic and all of that. Gosh darn it. Eric, what's going on? Good morning, good morning. Thank you so much. It matches the guitar, right? Thank you. The funny thing is I'm normally like, really tone. And it's like today I kind of purposely went like. Part of the other thing is, I love the idea of challenging myself, because I was like, okay, I normally have this great, really kind of easy to play. I don't mean great, like, oh, my tone is great. This great kind of like for shredding. It's like, it makes the job easier, right? But that is a lot harder on that kind of a tone, making me work for my take-home pay. But the thing is that I was like, I just need to do this. And I just kind of, because honestly, that amp, if I were really honest, the idea of playing really fast with a really clean tone, probably that amp scares me more than any other, simply because, again, as I mentioned before, there's enough pick stroke that makes its way. That kind of like, okay, well, let me just kind of confront it head on. So I'm going to be spending some time just practicing with this. Okay, because it's not, you know, all kind of hairy and a bunch. Well, there is delay and reverb, but the point being is like, you know, it is confronting in a good way. Hand pick waving. How about a thumb upping? Gosh darn it. What's going on, Judy? Or Junai? How about a little neck pickup? Well, not like that. Finally learn my intervals and arpeggios. Welcome. Thanks as always. Oh, thank you so much. No, Nick, I am having such a fun time. And thank you. It's flippin' love that tone. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Junie. Very, very kind. Much appreciated. Steve Garnowski. That's a funny looking bass in that photo. That wasn't what that chord I would. That's what I was looking for. My friend. Crazy train moves. Oh boy, that's how far back I am. I have the Halo. It's great, and a good companion for the fulcrum. It was what I loved about it, Sonia. Getting back to the fulcrum. Hello, and it's actually connected, but it's not on. Is that literally was plug and play? I'm like, let me plug in. The only bummer, and it may be around the setting that was that on the fulcrum. It by default when you plug it in, and this guy is. Should be a TRS, yeah. That is a tip. Hold on, let me put it up against black. There you go. Better. That's a tip, a ring, and a sleeve. So it requires a TRS cable. But by default, I have the mix control, the amount of effect down, but no fault of the fulcrums. But when you use the expression pedal, and I have to get in and read the manual, but by default, your expression goes all the way wet. Or that I should say the equivalent of turning the mix all the way up, which I presume is going to get rid. No, it adds 100% effect, but it doesn't do so at the expense of the direct signal. Duh. But I wish it reflected where I had the mix already set, such that all the way down is, you know, like 40%, and then you can back it off from there. But that may be getting into the menu that I haven't gotten into yet. Eric, good morning. Look at you. Well, I completely blew that, but it was well intended. Much love, Eric. Always a pleasure. One of my favorite things is being able to just kind of fiddle around. Hang on, let me just see if I can find something here. Let's see here. Okay, good. All right, I found it. Hang on just a second. All right, so we're going to do something a little out of the ordinary. One of my favorite things about guitar. Hey, Mike, what's going on, my man? Isn't that color? Like, holy, oh, your color? I didn't know that. I love. All right, hang on a second. Hang on. Let me just do a little catch up here. And I'm going to come back to this whole knocking thing. So first of all, let me just very quickly go to the opposite end. Sean, good morning. Great to see you. Aha! Grab that Les Paul, my friend. Did I know that Joe... First of all, Simon, great to see you. Hello, welcome back. Hey, look at that photo. I know that Satriani did the solo on Hold On to the Vision from the movie No Retreat, No Surrender. No, but hang on a second. Copy text. But I will go down and I will put that in my notes and I will go back and check that out. Thank you very much. Okay, cab clone attenuation feature is authentic. No, it's nuts, Albert. All right, so I'm going opposite here because I'm going to work my way backwards. Shane, good morning. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, youngest granddaughter. I love that. So as I started to mention about as it related to Eric and Shane as well, and everybody here, I love the guitar kinship. Like, it's really very different than, you know, like if we were into knitting. Crochet. You know, the croquet even. There is a bond that guitar players have that is just very unique to what we do, and I love that snorkeler. All right. Interesting question. So let me. I'm trying to make my way back up this, but does the sound of the guitar depend on the amp of the guitar? Because hold on a second. Let me slow that down. Hey, Doug Doppler. Hello, Simon again. Does the sound of the guitar depend on the amp or the guitar itself? Because when I had my first very cheap guitar, the wood was poor quality. Now, that's a really great question. And Simon, I'm going to copy this because the video that I ended up deciding to take a little bit more time to make with this guitar and also not drop a video on the 5th of July. It's like in YouTube world, it's like, wait until nobody's around and then drop your video, Doppler. Not very smart. But the thing about a great guitar, and this is a $699 guitar. I can't believe, I'm just like, okay, fine. I just have to get over it. It's a phenomenal guitar at any price. However, the wood makes a huge difference. And a cheap sounding guitar sounds cheap no matter what you plug it into. It's a great question. And the thing about this guitar that just kind of like, first of all, with a great guitar, the more you play it, the more the wood and all that stuff starts to vibrate to the way you play it. It really reflects where you play on that. It just starts, the notes that you play and you kind of keep playing them. it just plays them better. It just breaks in, and the wood resonates to the frequencies you play. This guitar just gets better, and I've been playing the snot out of this guitar. My guess is I'm probably already beginning to show some. Yeah, I'm showing. I can actually see the fret wear on this thing. The point being is that a great guitar just gets better and better the more you play it, and a crappy guitar just kind of sounds crappy no matter what you do to it. You can change the pickups. Sometimes it'll help, or just make it sound even crappier because you're actually putting a better pickup underneath. And you're like, boy, that brought out everything's truly crappy about it. So it's actually, kind of one of the talking points about this thing is like, first of all, this is laurel. The fingerboard wood is laurel. And there's a bunch of, I say this affectionately, but cork sniffers. So it's a phrase that, and I do realize I have a certain amount of gear, but I try not to be a curator of gear with an attitude about it where, oh, well, when I pick up my blah, I just like flipping hate that. It's just such a pissy, petty, juvenile way for adults who it's really about the music and not about the gear anyway to behave. It's just, I just have this much patience for it, if that. The point being that a great sounding, great playing instrument can come at any price point. And you can, it's an interesting thing. I kind of, as I was flipping my phone this morning, it was a comment. Joe was talking about talking about vintage guitars. He's not a big vintage guitar collector because he's like, and when I first started studying with Joe in 1979, he at that point had a 54 hardtail Strat, amongst other things, that had been refinished with this beautiful kind of greenish. When you think of a green sunburst, you can either think really gaudy and ugly, or instead of that subtle Fender gold, it had just this little bit of green to it that was a purposeful green, but it was gorgeous. And Joe sounded great playing it, and Joe on a guitar without a tremolo, But his he was like, and it was an interview with him somewhere, but he was basically talking about vintage guitars. It's a bigger thing than it really needs to be to basically encapsulate what his take was. And I'll just say this is that if a guitar was crappy in the 50s, it's not going to be any better today. So there are some vintage guitars that are just dogs, and there are ones that are great. The trick is finding the great ones and being able to play them and afford them. And, so I kind of love the idea that anybody could go in and buy this $699 guitar. And because Gibson has learned a thing or two about, the weight of the body and whatnot, and, the laurel, there are a bunch of people, my cork sniffer comment, oh, laurel, it's not mahogany, they're cheap, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you know what? I dare anybody in the universe to go, oh, let me hear that as a blind sample. It's like, oh, that is obviously the sound of a laurel fingerboard. It's like, sorry, that's obscene. I take that gesture back. It's like, no, you can't. And, it's a really, first of all, it's a sustainable wood. Hello. It's a good thing. And it's affordable. And it means that, like, little Dougie had walked into a music store. It's like, Mommy, I want a Les Paul. And she bought this for me. It's like, I can't mention the brand of my first electric guitar, but this is a way better guitar. Just a way better guitar. Great question. All right. The things that I say. Dangling your mic camera is illegal in most states. Anybody who missed the previous comment, secondary leading tone, 7 chords, virtual hug. Oh, I love you, Matt. So the funny thing is, Matt in the comment once said, so Matt is actually is a very dear friend, but we have a theory relationship. And he said, there's some things that I know about theory that would be a help to you. So agreed, point taken. I actually don't know what a secondary leading tone, 7 chords actually is. How about that? So, I'm humble enough to go, explain that to me, Matt. Great to see you. I hope you had an awesome 4th. Eric, awesome. All right, so I'm going to do something a little bit different. No need to apologize. The roof of Tom's house, Oakland, was full of bullets. Right. I mean, it's just crazy, right? Holy cow. All right, there we go. Drinking Dr. Pepper. David. All right, hang on. There we go. Catching up with David. I saw you in there. What, me worry? Okay. And first of all, the name sounds familiar, but if you had What Me Worry, maybe I just forgot that. Currently sitting in Easter, Oregon, high desert, lovely, awesome, via Starlink, drinking coffee, enjoying a live stream. There's so much groovy going on with that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Awesome. All right. Lumbi, I'm going to do something a little different because I can. So what I'm going to do, and let's see here, because it's a holiday, I'm going to play a rough mix. And I'm going to remember to turn my mic off, and I'm going to remember to turn my mic back on, hopefully. So I'm going to do something kind of as a visual reminder to do that. All right. I'm going to play a song. So, Lumbi, so I'm going to play you. This is Joe Satriani's mix. So, Simon, this is also a little treat for you, my friend. Oh, Chris Lewis. Hello, my friend. Great to see you. Hello, hello, hello. Do you think that Epiphone is special, or are they making good products? I had one for years and years and loved it. Sold it on the cheap to someone starting out. This guitar. So it's a great question. So this showed up at about the same time a Marty Schwartz ES335 showed up, which is another Epiphone. Great guitars. And I was like, oh, okay. They're making great guitars. And for the money, they're phenomenal. So, and thank you, Simon. This guitar is just gorgeous. And it sounds great. There was a period of time. All right, so, the cork sniffer thing, there was a period of time, like, well, am I... do I want to would I actually walk out on stage with an Epiphone, right? And I must admit, kind of as I kind of started having the privilege of working with Mesa Boogie and Gibson as a brand, I was like, oh, Epiphone, well, I'm a Gibson player. I'm not an Epiphone player. Well, you know what? This is the Marty Schwartz guitars. And I've actually got, you can see at my Epiphone Firebird over there, changed my mind. I would play this on stage any and every day of the week, and gleefully so. So I am enamored with these instruments. This is one of my favorite guitars, and there's some guitars that are far more expensive than this, but this could. There it is. All right. All right, Simon, this is for you, and it is for everybody else, but since there was a special request, Lumi, let's see here. Let me just do one thing. Let me see if I can do this. I'm going to do this because I will feel slightly self-conscious of this if I'm just sitting here kind of, trying to look like, I don't know, playing it and like trying to look something. All right, I'm going to throw this on the top. I think this is going to load right there onto the stream. Let me do that. There we go. All right, so I'm going to... So that was 2023, I believe. So this is a song that... It's actually a really... Hang on, let me get rid of you for just a quick second. Let me jump over here. I'm going to give you the introduction now that we've done this. Do I have another one? Let's see here. Let's see. There we go. Hi. All right, so the deal is, I was at the Steve I Guitar Camp, and I was sending the stems to Joe so he could lay his parts, and then he sent his stems back as well as the mix you're about to hear. So this is Knocking on Heaven's Door, and there's kind of a funny story about this. Is like, get back to, there we go. I was in the car, and one of the things that I love about Apple Music is that it will kind of bring up different suggestions around tracks, and so you'll play something and it will, it'll offer up a suggested track, and it brought up Knocking on Heaven's Door, and I was like, oh, that would be a really cool instrumental. So I reached out to Joe, and I can't go into the other details about it, but it was a really good choice. So what you're going to hear is Joe's rough mix. So this is mixed by Joe The rhythm guitars at the end need to be fixed because they're not perfectly in sync, and I'll just replace them. But all the parts, with the exception of rhythm guitars, are the keepers. And it's again, like while I was at the Vi Academy, staying up until 3 in the morning preparing the stems and bundling them all up to send to Joe. And then getting up, and then kind of the next day, and then kind of coming back to my room, and Joe's stems were there, including the mix. And I downloaded it. This is what I heard, and this is what you're going to hear. All right. And there we go. All right. Microphone is muted in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go. Now I need to get to the right audio file. Almost there. Come on. Knock in. Come on. KNO. N-O-C-K. Sorry, wasn't planning on being DJ. Here we go, and boom. right, I managed to turn the mic back on, and well, there you have it. So that was kind of a little fun little treat. Simon, thanks for all your kind words there. Albert, thank you as well. So, it's there is an instrumental well, there's actually 2 instrumental albums. Where'd that cover go? Albert set me up last week like, what was that song that we were listening to? There we go. So basically what this is, it's the 30th anniversary of this album. Oh, Melissa! Hey! Killy! Hey, so, thanks, love. So this album came out 30 years ago. So it's never been on Spotify. So I've been taking this great Spotify... hang on just one second. So there is a guy named Chris Greenwood, and he is my Spotify... I use the word loosely, a guru, but he is, especially since he's a Christian guy. But the point being is that he does a Spotify challenge, and I'm going to share the link in the chat now. Hang on a second. There we go. And it's fabulous. So he does a kind of a 5-day long challenge for an hour a day. Super inexpensive to do it. I am part of his mastermind, which is a more expensive course. But part of what we're doing is as I kind of went on to my Spotify, I realized this album never made it to Spotify. And so we're going to re-release this to kind of, I'm going to use this to figure out kind of the strategies that he's teaching me, how to be able to do that with this as opposed to when we get to the instrumental album, make sure that we've kind of already figured out some of those things. And then in turn, there's a vocal album coming with a guy named Caleb Johnson, who won American Idol, who's my favorite singer in the world. So, in any case, today is a teaching day, so I need to kind of mosey on out of here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in on the 5th of July, 2025, and just what a privilege to be able to be here, make music, play through my beloved gear, and ruminate on something that we are all so passionate about. So it's a privilege. I just love doing this. I was so excited to kind of try something different today. So I really appreciate the enthusiasm and just, as always, if I seem to be overly appreciative, I'm overly appreciative. So thank you. Have an awesome week. If you're new, thanks for coming and didn't ask any questions. Next week, come back, make a list of questions, hit me with them. Also, Chris sent some questions that I didn't get to today, but I'll pick some of those up next week. Make it a great one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I look forward to seeing you next Saturday. Thanks again. And for now, Doppler out.